Hello and welcome to the Second Wind Academy podcast with me, your host, Ryan Gonsalves. Each week, I invite someone within the sporting world to come and share with us their perspective on career transition. Through the lens of elite athletes, today, James Hilovsky joins us to take us through the 101 of franchising. He's going to explain why he sees athletes are the perfect people to start and operate franchises. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm excited about having you on today because, well, actually what's intriguing is this conversation really focuses less on you as the athlete and how you've transitioned, but very much on perhaps the transferable skills that you've seen athletes bring into this wonderful world of franchises. So you have to excuse me if I get a little bit excited and start going off in a few random tangents, but this is all about learning. So hopefully you'll bear with me as well.
Oh, no problem at all. Absolutely. Well, one of the big things that when looking at a franchise business, why athletes are so successful are really because when you look at a franchise model, the franchisor provides a playbook to be successful in business. So an athlete has spent his entire life following a playbook, following coaching, following constructive criticism. So this works really well in the business world of where also they're going into business with the franchisor, leading and guiding them, and they're able to take that direction and just be able to have that teamwork and the team around them, not only with the franchisor that tells them, hey, how to set up the business, how to run the business, giving that ongoing support, but also the franchisees in the system. They are now part of your team. So if something goes wrong, you're going to call the franchisee down the street and go, hey, what happened with this? And how did you tackle this problem? And it makes just a great fit for athletes to transition into the franchise business world.
I like that, James. Makes it really clear. I think the bit that gets me most is that playbook is, like you say, for many athletes, professional athletes or elite athletes who are coming through the ranks, it really is about a playbook, knowing what it takes to succeed. And what you've described there is a franchise, or at least I guess a successful franchisor knows that playbook, knows the key steps to be successful. Is that something you recognized in athletes early on, or was this something that just came about through your experience?
Actually, just really early on, is because it's just such a natural fit. But what I will tell you too, in business and entrepreneurship, of when an athlete is looking to translate after the cheering stop, I call it, of into the business world or deciding to take a job. One of the things that athletes do have when it comes to the entrepreneurship is when I have clients that are from the professional world, that are in corporate America, the hardest thing for them to overcome is the fear of betting on themselves, of going into business for themselves and taking that step. For the athlete, that's a little bit easier because the athletes bet on himself and her or herself all their lives. And so it really isn't that much of a fear factor. It's like, okay, if I get a playbook, I'm ready to jump into it. So that's another big factor, is just athletes don't have that fear. They're ready to tackle things head on.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, James, I've got so many more questions about some of those steps, but I'm keen to understand a bit more about you and sort of where you're at today. Can you just tell me what is your current role and how does it work?
Yeah. So what I do is I take athletes and professionals that are out there, and I'm like a matchmaker. I show them all the franchise systems that are out there. I have about 400 franchise brands that I work with really closely. So when a client comes to me, we'll talk about, hey, what industries do you like? And if you don't know, that's okay. We'll figure that out, and we'll go step by step the different industries. We'll talk about investment level, and we'll talk about if they want to be owner operator, or do they want to hire a manager to do the day to day, and then we just kind of work with that and take their background into consideration too, and then talk about the different franchises out there and what might be fits. I'll probably show them maybe 5 to 10 different options that are out there for them, and they'll pick one or two. And then what I will do is I'll introduce them to the franchisor, and then I'll help them when they're talking with the franchisor, trying to figure out if it's a great match. I help them with, hey, the next step is they're going to send you a FDD, and here's how you read a FDD, which is a franchise disclosure document, where the franchisor is disclosing, here's the fees you have to pay and the royalties that are out there. So I'll explain that and help them with that. I'll help them with next steps. I'll help them if they need funding. I help them with funding, lending options, as well as when you get closer to make a decision if the franchise is right for you. I will help you with verifying that system with the franchisees.
Well,
So the biggest thing is the franchisees in the system are ones that you need to talk to make sure that it's a really good franchise.
and so that sounds like,
Particularly where the
well,
yeah.
I was saying that that does sound like quite a methodical process that you take them through. Can you, and I'm just trying to picture it, if anything, for myself, but no, I'm just trying to picture it. And can you give me an example or create an example of how you might take someone through and the steps that you do to, I guess, open them up to what types of franchise they may want to step into?
Yeah, so absolutely. That's a great question. Let's say you came to me and you were just like, "Hey James, I know nothing about franchising. Tell me a little bit about that and how are we going to get here?" And then I'll basically say, "You know what? Here's a little bit. Here's a quick synopsis of franchising. You pay a one-time franchise fee. Typically, right now it's about 50,000. That's one time to the franchisor, and then the other fees that you pay are royalties that are top line sales and a marketing fee, which you would pay that anyways to market your business. So you might go, well, why don't I just do that myself? Well, the reason why you're paying these fees is they're going to give you not only that opening support, but let's say you wanted to have a brick and mortar where you are doing a retail location. They're going to help you find that location. They're going to help you give you all the specs to build it. So they're going to really help you set up the business, as well as be out there for your opening, give you the training. If you are in a HVAC business, you don't know anything about HVAC, that's okay. They're going to teach you how to do that and run the business and who to hire. So they're going to give you all this and give you that playbook. And then why you pay those fees is you have that ongoing support. So that's the first step of understanding a little bit of what franchising is. And then when we talk about the different industries, they'll say, Ryan, tell me about, or do you want to be an owner operator where you're in the day to day,
Yeah.
or would you like to hire a manager to do the day to day? And we'll talk about the industries that are out there.
So,
We'll talk about, hey, do you like dog grooming?
so James,
and
yeah, I mean,
and you go,
well,
go ahead.
okay, well, let's take this one, right? So let's try and make it real. So it's me, and I
Sure.
myself, former athlete. I'm coming out of playing pro football, pro soccer, and
Mhm.
someone said, how would someone know about this? Because I'm thinking, what on earth am I going to do? How would I get introduced to you, James?
Well, you'd be introduced. We would have played golf on a golf course that we would be introduced, and I would
That
have talked to you about
Do you know what? I was going to say,
that.
would that be
or,
quick or that would be really long, as I'm probably going to be 100 over par. So, okay, so we've had a long chat on that golf course, and so me as a soccer player, I'm like, okay, hey James, yeah, I'd love to know more and get into this. What would we do then?
So then what we would do, I would explain what I did about the franchises there,
Yeah,
and then we would talk about Well, what are your goals? Like, what are your goals when it comes to business ownership? I know you're transitioning from the
Yeah.
field, but kind of what are your goals? Are you looking maybe to do something that you're going to throw everything in and you're going to be in it
I'm
and do the day
I'm
to
jumping
day?
all in. I'm jumping all in. I want hands on. This is me because that's all I know.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. That's great. And the franchise is going to help teach you that. So let's now say now that we have that established, what do you think that you would you like to do? Start with one unit, or do you think that you would like to maybe do 2 or 3 units or territories, or that
Ah,
would you
okay.
want to do multiple territories or just one?
Well, I think what I'd say is, so I know where the stadium is. The fans are around the stadium, so I want to
Mhm.
do the area that is in that stadium because people are going to know me. So maybe that is that maybe 1 or 2 territories. So quite so it's local.
Yeah, maybe. Right. Yeah, we do 1 or 2, and then maybe it is expanding after that for sure.
Yes.
Then
Oh, definitely
okay, so
growing.
we got that.
I'm happy to start in at the bottom because that's how I did in my career. But I know I want to go to the top. I will. I'm going to take. I'm talking domination afterwards. But for now, I'm good starting.
Perfect.
I'm humble.
Perfect. Oh, that's great. Now we got to figure out. Let's talk about investment level. An average franchise total investment. This is including the franchise fee, build out, everything to get started. You're talking. Would you be comfortable with 200K and below, or 200K and above, or do you have a number in mind?
Let's go below. So it's going to be 200. It's going to be below 200K. I think you said it starts at maybe 50K earlier on. So let's say okay.
Yes.
I'm I'll invest 80,000. Does that sound like a good number?
Yeah, 80,000, we can work with that. Absolutely. So, one of the things that I will tell you is right away, being an athlete, I'm sure you've heard of Shaq that has been just great at franchising, and he's into food. He does a lot of food, right?
Yeah.
So, what I will tell you is that restaurants are the biggest investment of them all.
Oh,
You're probably looking at 600K to $1 million for that investment.
yeah.
So we're ruling those out. We're going to look what's called of entry level franchises.
Hmm.
Not saying they're bad, but they're going to be. It's going to narrow the field down a little bit,
Yeah.
but we can have some things to work with, and that's probably going to be in the service industry of home services or something like
Oh,
that.
hold on. Do you mean like
Now,
I might have
I
to use
will
my
tell
hands?
you.
Because I'm a soccer player, which means
Well,
I'm all feet. So if we're talking hands, maybe do I need to
no, no,
increase my
no.
investment?
Well, you might need to, but no, we can work with that. You're going to have your crew's going to be doing the work because you're going to be running the business.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
not really going to necessarily be doing the day to day. You're going to be doing the hiring and then the supervising of your employees.
Building
So
the team, a bit like I'm the
one of the
captain.
things I'm first going to tell you about. Yes, exactly, exactly like you're the captain and you're going to be running it just like it was you were back on the field.
I can do that. That sounds great.
putting putting aces in their places and running the business.
That's it. I like that. Let's go there.
So I'm going to tell you that the couple I really like to kind of look at high margin franchises because for myself, I really like to take my clients to something where they're going to make money. And I don't want you to get you into a hobby. I want you to,
Yeah.
have some money, money that we could, get a second territory or maybe even build generational wealth. So, one of the things I'm going to suggest to you now at our investment level that's out there, I'm going to say just have an open mind. But one of the things would be a franchise that picks up dog poop, dog waste.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
you're going, I don't want to do that.
Go on. Keep going. Keep
uh,
going. I like this.
yep, but your team is going to do this, and this particular franchise, what they do is they help you get all the residential customers that are out there, and they help you set that up, and they really your biggest job is going to be able to go out into the community and talk with people in the HOAs that are out there secure those business. This particular business does not require a brick and mortar, since that's going to be kind of tough where the investment level we want is at. And this particular business, the margins on this are about 30% margins. And what margins mean is if you do $100,000 in the business, you would look at probably a $30,000 profit would be the margins.
Okay.
And this particular business has the potential in a territory to do two to 400,000 a year. So
Right.
those
Okay.
margins are pretty strong
Yeah.
in that way. In that investment, you particularly would have your investment back well within 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be one of the options.
Yeah. And so how so that so it's interesting, but I'm thinking, okay, dog poop. No, maybe that's not for me. How do we go about
Right.
finding other options? Because I tell you where I'm at the moment, James, is it's interesting because you're at least the opening understands a financial level, financial investment as a starting point and area that I want to work with. To what extent do you go through what am I interested in or value or those types of elements? Is that a now or is that a later thing?
No, that's still now. That would just be one that I would highlight just
Yeah.
because I want to get your mind thinking. Okay, and let me kind of open up my mind here. Then I would tell you, we could look at the automotive industry. So our investment level in the automotive industry, we're probably looking at doing like fleet washing or mobile car washing in
Right.
in the automotive
Hmm.
industry. And that, so those margins are pretty good. You don't, it could be home based, and you just have to have the truck and the equipment. So that would be an option.
Yeah. Okay.
And you would go,
Yeah.
maybe James, maybe,
That's what. Do you know what I'm thinking is these ones are really interesting. I get that I can see how for that amount of investment, it sounds like things can get up and running. Just for those two options that you gave there, but the let's go for picking up dog poop, right? So let's say that one is I'm interested in. From me saying, yeah, that's something I could work with. Typically, how long is it until I'm picking up the first dog poop? What's that sort of timeline for those types of firms for me to be
so
saying getting
uh,
going?
well, let's say with that, I was going to hit you with some different ones that I think you would be interested
Oh,
in. So let me go to those first before we go to dog poop.
let's
Okay.
do it. Let's do it.
So this particular one, which would be right up your alley, this is a franchise that teaches kids how to play soccer.
Oh,
That's all they do. So it is teaching the youth how to play soccer. It's organizing soccer leagues, uh, right up your alley that I think you probably would definitely enjoy. I wanted to give you some different options out there, but I think this would probably be the best fit for you. Some athletes just say, "Yeah, I don't really want to do that anymore. I kind of walked away from the game." Um,
yeah.
but this one might be something to where you're working with the youth, you're giving them skills, and you're working from K all the way on up to high schools, as well as running and setting up leagues.
Okay. So that sounds
So
like something I know I can do. But what is then interesting
right.
is the idea often as athletes we'll leave and we'll set up our own coaching capabilities and we start with one or two people. Why what is it about buying into a franchise that would accelerate that process for me?
So yeah, so you're saying, well, hey man, I already know how to coach. I don't need this, right?
Yeah.
So what the franchisor is going to do is, well, I know you're a great soccer player. I know you know everything, that there is to know about soccer. But what about teaching the preschoolers? What would you teach them? I'm sure you do have some goals, but we have this program that we've worked and proven, and we have it step by step. Really, it's not really for you to teach because, I mean, yes, I'm sure you'll go out there and teach, but it's for your team and your crew to help teach the kids. So we're going to give you this manual and give you the step by step. Here's how we're going to take this age group and teach them how to play soccer. And here's who we need to talk to get to grab our customers. And here's where you need to go. So all that will be laid out of not only teaching methods, but where to go get the get the players and get the guests and customers that you need to sign up.
I like that. Okay, I see it.
For sure.
That's it. And it is kind of well, it's the playbook. It's what will accelerate me in moving forward and probably considering things that I'm not aware of. I'm good on the field, but everything else that goes around it, that's probably the bit that I'm missing.
Correct. Correct. So now let's say, hey James, you know what? Let's maybe table the dog poop. Let's kind of put that back burner. Let me find out first about the soccer franchise. So what do I do without that? So what would happen then is I would introduce you to the franchisor. And with the franchisor, now I've handed you off. The franchisor is going to give you, Ryan, here's our marketing. Here's kind of how we're going to lay out the playbook. Here's kind of how we're going to look for locations. Here's how we're going to help you get those customers. They're going to give you that big, deep, encompassing dive of that first phone call. And then what they're going to do is they're going to send you what's called the FDD, which is a franchise disclosure document. And in that document, it will have all the fees, basically what the range is of what the cost would be to set up the franchise. And then what they'll do is say, hey, we're going to have another call, and you set that up with the franchisor. Now, between that call with the franchisor, I'm talking to you about, okay, how'd the call go? And you're going, this is something that I liked or didn't like, and we probably would have that conversation. You're going, well, James, I'm thinking I might be able to do this on my own and maybe not with the franchise. And I would go, okay, well, let's look, and how are they going to support you? Did you feel that you were going to get great support from them, something that you couldn't do? And you probably are going to go, absolutely. I think they're going to be able to help me much better with the marketing and capture the customers. So we talk through what's that franchise look like, and then I'll give you a guide on how to read that FDD.
Okay. Yeah.
So you know how to read that.
Yeah. I was going to say how
And
looking for.
then
So you are as much. I know you as much guiding and supporting that individual in supporting me to sift through this
supporting you.
information
Yeah,
and figure out, okay, is this the right
absolutely.
choice for me? Is this appropriate for where I want to
Right.
be?
Exactly. And then it would come down to, you would have that next call, the franchisor. They would go over a little bit more deeper about them. You would answer questions you might have on the FDD. And then they would say, okay, now you're to validation stage. So you could call franchisees in the system. So then we come back and have a phone call, and they'll go, hey, here's a little guide of who to call and what questions to ask a franchisee. What kind of support did you get? How long did it take you to get profitable? And the big question that you want to know is, would you do this again? And they might tell you, well, no, we would just do it on our own. But most of them are going to say we would do it again. And I would tell you to talk to as many as you could, because of course you're going to get people that are dissatisfied and just expected, hey, I'm just going to sign up for the franchise and they're going to do everything for me, and I don't have to run my business, which that's a pitfall. When you're in a franchise system, you still have to run your business to be successful, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm sold on this idea. I think the coaching is the soccer coaching sounds like it's something I should do. Now, being a franchise, does that mean the name is selected, the brand is selected, or is it? Am I still bringing my own brand on there as well?
Great question. So the name is selected, the brand is selected. Being someone with your stature, you might be able to say to the franchisor, hey, I think maybe we could do this a little bit better. Is that okay if I try that? And they'll say maybe yes or no. It may be a no, and it may be a yes, but I'm sure they would listen to you much more than they would to me if I was trying to start, the franchise, for sure, as well.
Yeah, so it might not be called Ryan's Soccer Clinic, but it could take their name, and we may play around with how might my brand influence it, given this is a soccer clinic just outside the stadium where, let's assume, all the fans know me and love me. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, they call it would be called Soccer Stars. So that's actually the name of that's actually the name of the franchise, actually. So it would be called Soccer Stars. and there for sure.
Yeah.
So what we do, so that's kind of what we would need to do. And then your other question was, well, how quickly would I do that? So that process probably is going to take us 30 days or more on a, because there's not a lot of moving
Wow.
parts.
Yeah.
We're not looking at doing we're not looking at doing a brick and mortar location or anything. It could be home based, so it could
Hmm.
be up to start fairly quickly. What does have to happen though, you have to have that FDD in your possession for 14 days, because it's much like you have to have time to digest that
Mm.
and to review it, so they can't officially sign until you've had those 14 days looking at it,
Love that. Okay.
for
All right.
sure.
That's good. It's like a cooling off period, if anything. So you can tell
Correct.
I'm quite excited about this, but it's like, okay, still 14 days, just chill. Just make sure you understand everything that's going on.
Yep.
Right.
Just chill. We need to do our value. We need to do our validation. We need to look a little bit deeper and make sure
Mm.
that this is a great fit and that the franchisor is going to give you all that support that they say they're going to give you. And one thing too during this, a lot of people don't know this. I would say, you know what, Ryan, when we're coming down, you say, hey James, I want to do this. I said, okay, well, why don't we ask for 6 months of free royalties where they don't charge the royalties while we get launched.
Right.
And sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they'll say no, just kind of depending on the particular franchise. But it's always good to ask to get something to sign and to get that little jump start. Most of the time, they'll honor of not having the royalties right off the bat, because at the end of the day, they want you to be successful.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Listen, it sounds like it's a good program, a good idea. And look, franchising, we're having this because it's somewhat real. As I'm there and I'm thinking, okay, there's some other crazy ideas that I may not have even considered. What's the difference in this process that we've just gone through to say if I was in the 200K and up and there was a property or a retail site that was included? What additional steps might we have to go through?
So the additional steps we would have to go to get it launched and that we would have to find a brick and mortar. So the franchisor, after you sign the agreement that you're going to go with them, we're going to have to find that site, and they're going to help us do that. Now, I have had some clients that have found their site, and then the franchisor still has to approve it, but where they've said, hey, I already got the site, this is what I know. And then the franchisor will go back because they want to take a look at the demographics, the household income. What is the surrounding area? Is it going to be a fit for the business? If they say yes, it's approved, and then you can go, negotiate lease and those things. And the franchisor will kind of guide you a little bit on that. Now, if you're letting them, find it, sometimes it can take a few months to find the right fit that both parties agree on. So it could be a little bit longer to get that up and going.
That's great. James, thanks for that. That's good. That gives me that bit of clarity, and hopefully those listening on how we might, one might go through that process. And it all starts with a really bad game of golf is perhaps one of the ways to do that.
Yes, exactly. It starts with a bad game, or we meet on LinkedIn, or we meet somewhere. But yes, it definitely is good. And one of the other things too that I've taken athletes through the franchise system, and some of them go, it's not for me. I'm more of a athlete that kind of likes to do things on my own, and I might not want to be restricted through what the franchise is offering me, and I want to have the say of the name and the products and everything. And then really, you're probably not a good fit for a franchise because you don't really want to follow a system. So and that's fine, and that's not a fit, and that's okay.
Well, so I guess on that, I'm interested a bit. You've got corporate experience and franchise experience. To what is it that would make you see athletes more suited to franchise businesses rather than going into corporate?
I really think uh, the athlete is mindset truly is entrepreneur mindset. of either, in sports, or you have a team around you, which you can build that into the franchise world. Like you were just saying, it's going to be, that's, I'm going to be the captain. And that's exactly how an athlete will run their business. Just like if they were the captain, here's where my aces go. Here's the, and they really get the sense in business too of, hey, I'm back in my playing days. Now I'm just, being like the manager or the captain, and putting people where they're supposed to go and running it. So I really believe that mindset, and just the mindset of, hey, bet on myself. And I don't really see that a lot of athletes will go into corporate America and they'll get bored, and they always, they'll kind of get a little bit bored. They're not challenged. And at the end of the day, I think an athlete far, can see, why am I making this company tons of money when I could probably go out and do this on my own? And why don't I just bet on myself and make money for myself, or that generational wealth for my family?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because at least it's thought provoking, because you talk there about that entrepreneurial mindset. And if anything, it's a mindset where athletes are used to having to perform and push themselves. And what a franchise, it sounds like, gives them is the opportunity to do that, but with a framework, a game plan that may enable them to keep that entrepreneurial mindset and build something. Whereas that corporate environment, whilst they can progress and there's still a framework, it's less entrepreneurial. You're actually following a much prescribed plan, and perhaps overly tactical in terms of what you're doing. So it lacks that creativity.
Absolutely. And another thing really where athletes are really great about is when they, because in business, you're going to have peaks and valleys. And when you're in the low of low, athletes kind of know how to, pick themselves up of when they haven't, when maybe if the business is kind of going, just a little bit sideways. An athlete has been in this situation before in their playing days of, I haven't scored a goal in, how many, and I have a wide open net and I miss it. You can work through, you've worked through that. You know how to push yourself and go, okay, I believe in my abilities and I know that I'm going to right this ship. I just got to keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And I think that tenacity also is really helps an athlete into the business world.
Yeah. So given that, when is the best time for an athlete to start exploring franchisee ownership?
So I would say for an athlete that wants to explore, um, obviously when they first retire, but it really, I have a couple NFL football players right now that are looking, and they came to me and said, James, I want to play 3 more years in the NFL. That's what I'm thinking I got. And when I'm done, I want to walk away from the game and have something to walk into. I'll hire a manager to run my franchises, but I'm looking to walk into the potential of $500,000 that the business is earning me. And this particular athlete wanted a gym. So I said, okay, well, we need to do a 3 gym deal, like 3 units.
Okay.
And let's do one your first year, build the second one year number 2, and the third one year number 3. And by that time, you'll have all 3 functioning when you're ready to walk away from the game, and you can walk into that that hurdle that you want to get into.
Now that's a great story. One, because the athlete there has this vision. They're able to look and perhaps accept how long left they're going to have as a professional athlete. But what is also interesting is they got to a number. They had a number that they know they want to earn or to live off, to create their lifestyle when they do retire.
Right.
And by having that conversation, you're able to set things up to at least have a plan to keep that number, or to get to that number by the time they retire.
Yes, absolutely. So I think really it's that foresight and planning. Now, sometimes the cheering stops when you didn't expect it to, and now you're just trying to. I mean, so right now, and it's NFL training camp, and I do have athletes that are like, well, James, I want to play this year. I want to do a franchise, but I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be on the team in Green Bay, or if Green Bay, if I don't make the team, I might have to go to Miami. So I have to table this until I figure out, one, where am I going to play, and two, when I'm going to have the time to do that. So I understand that there are limitations and things like that. I might go, well, where do you see yourself when your playing days are done living? And they might go, well, my wife or fiance from Texas, so I can see that. And we go, okay, well, do you have a support group in Texas that you would trust to run your business? So let's just say, it doesn't matter what happens, but do you have someone there? And if they say no, then we go, okay, well, we do need to table this for a little bit. But if they go, yeah, my fiance or my wife's brother, he could do it, and we go, okay, well, let's talk about looking at a franchise in Texas and have him run that and be your support. And oftentimes they're like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's start looking at that. So I kind of help them plan in that regard as well.
Right. It is interesting because it's like business management or business advice that's been provided, and A's advice, business guidance that's been provided there. But there are cookie cutter examples of how to make it successful. It's less about them coming up with the idea and driving it themselves, but perhaps it is coming up with the idea, but then giving them a formula to make it happen. Like you say, that NFL player looking for a gym, it's like, I'm going to set up a gym. Now, he could do that, but by setting that financial figure, you can give, well, here are some of the steps. Here are the number of gyms that you would need to open in order to get that. And here are the numbers that you need to be profitable.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing of, hey, what are we looking at? What kind of lifestyle are you looking? And we kind of tailor make it to that as well, definitely. And so I guess really the question is, when is the best time? It's just we can make a plan and kind of figure that out of when the best time is. But I would always try to plan to do something while you're still on the field, if
Yeah.
it's all possible. And I understand sometimes it's not possible because we don't have the support system. I have several clients that are overseas NBA basketball players, and they want to do something in the States, but they don't have the support group here, and it's something we're going to have to wait on.
Yeah, that support group, I hear it so often for when athletes retire. One of the most important things is to have that support group around you. Who have you got in your corner, in your team? And that's just as important here. And, interestingly, I just had a podcast around joining a family business. In some respects, that support group, and each example you've given, which makes me think it must be normal, relates to a family member or at least a close friend, but a family member helping to set up and run this thing as well.
Exactly, and that's really really key. And the thing that Shaq is now has a big corporation and he has an amazing team, and he could do anything that he wants, because he's got that great support and that big team around him for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose just a last sort of few questions. Have you seen examples, or do you have examples of where athletes have gone into franchising, but have done it to support a cause that they perhaps have believed in, or something that they've come across, so that it's not just a straight boom, here's a revenue making cash rich business, but has been perhaps cause or purpose related as well?
Yeah, I had an NFL player who had a business, a retired NFL player, had a business that he was already an entrepreneur, but he's like, James, I want to look in the franchise world. He was in the wine business. He's going, I'm kind of tired of the wine business. I kind of want to get into something a little bit different. And we looked at different franchise options, and we looked at dog grooming, gyms, muscle recovery studios, IV drips, you name it. We looked at all those, and he was like, yeah, that just isn't, it's good, but I think I'm just going to stick with what I got. So I'm like, okay. But really, the next day, he's like, James, this is what I want. And I want to do something that'll be in the mental health phase, where a franchise that will help people that have addiction, that maybe have suffered from, CTE issues. That's what I want. So we found a franchise that does that. And he loved it. And he put one in Florida, and he said, my ultimate goal really would be to put one of these in every NFL city. So that was definitely like his cause that he wanted to help out, and so not only is it a business, but it's a cause for him as well.
That's a great story. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I do think that is important, and it's accelerating for purpose business just as much as accelerating a for profit business. So it's wonderful that those options or opportunities certainly exist there as well. It now, as I say that, and
Absolutely.
it does then lead me to another question, which is in terms of you mentioned margin at the start, and what would be an I'm going to say a reasonably outlandish business that has a very strong margin that people will just often look past?
Um, Dog grooming. It
Dog
really,
grooming?
when you think of franchise, you don't really think of dog grooming,
No.
of people taking their dogs to groom. Margins over 30%. There's one particular franchise, they have it where it is kind of like a car wash. It's a subscription based model. You pay a monthly figure to get your dog groomed. I think it's like $70, $80, right? And you can take it as many times as you want. And so the franchise has all these dogs signed up, much like car washes, and
Yes.
it's reoccurring revenue. And it's easier to keep employees, because when people are going in to get their dog room, and they pick up their dog, they're actually tipping more, because there's no money out of pocket because they've already paid it. So you have happy employees, and the margins are really super strong, because it's a building that only is like 1,200 square feet, and it is one that you go, gosh, I never would think that dog grooming would be a great franchise.
I'm going to have to get over my allergies and get into dog grooming. This is it.
Exactly, right. 100%.
That, James, listen, that is great. I suppose uh, one sort of real final question is when we've spoken about when's a good time for athletes to begin, and it's certainly when they're playing, perhaps towards the end of their career, but whilst they're still performing or acting. What guidance would what guidance would you have for any athlete who is thinking about finding a franchise or setting up their own business? What guidance would you give to them to sort of approach that thinking and decision making?
Yeah, I would just say, one, athletes usually don't have the fear, but let's put the fear aside. Let's bet on yourself. There's a lot of athletes that come out of playing, the cheering stopped, they're depressed, they feel they don't have any worth left anymore. And I would just say, you definitely could get into a business. You have the entrepreneur spirit. Let's get up and find something that would be where we can put passion into, and your playing days can be recreated into your business. And if it's franchise business or not, your playing days can be recreated, because you'll be that general manager, that coach, that leader of the person that you were and are, because you still are that person that was that athlete, and you still have incredible talents to use, and I would say use it in the business world.
James, that's brilliant. For those who want to perhaps get in touch with you or follow your story, where can they find you?
So yeah, they can find me. Thefrandream.com is my website. They can email me at James at thefrandream, or check me out on LinkedIn. Let's connect, and let's talk.
James, I want to say a massive thanks for joining us on the show today. Really appreciated the chat and feel like I'm ready to start my franchise.
That's great news. That's great news. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time, and I really appreciate it.